President Donald Trump says he is strongly considering levying new sanctions and tariffs on Russia for its war against Ukraine. He's floating the possibility of applying new pressure on Moscow after the White House this week paused U.S. military aid and assistance to Kyiv. In a post on his Truth Social platform today, Trump said he is considering the action based on the fact that Russia is absolutely pounding Ukraine on the battlefield right now.
Speaking from the Oval Office today, U.S. President Donald Trump said he thinks it will be easier to deal with Russia instead of Ukraine to find an end to the conflict between the two countries.
We're doing very well with Russia, but right now they're bombing the hell out of Ukraine, and I'm finding it more difficult, frankly, to deal with Ukraine. And they don't have the cards. Getting a final settlement, it may be easier dealing with Russia, which is surprising because they have all the cards. Ukraine has to get on the ball and get a job done.
The comments this afternoon came after his post on Truth Social this morning that he's considering new economic sanctions on Russia, including on its banking sector. The threat came as Trump faces criticism for increasing pressure on Ukraine to reach a deal while playing down or even denying Russia's responsibility for starting the war with its invasion 3 years ago.
This punishment could take a few different forms. One option would be to tighten oil sanctions on Russia. Another option would be to sanction Chinese banks that do business with Russia. That would put us into conflict with the Chinese, but that is also on the table. And then a third possibility is that he could sanction all of the Russian banks that the U.S. hasn't sanctioned already. That list is not very long. The U.S. has already heavily sanctioned all areas of the Russian economy.
Сьогодні увесь день на різних рівнях.
Meanwhile, last night, Ukraine's leader welcomed ongoing discussions with Trump's team and aid support from European nations. But while leaders are trying to work towards ending the war, attacks still continue. Ukrainian officials said Russia had targeted energy facilities with dozens of missiles and drones in a nighttime attack. The barrage hobbled the country's ability to deliver heat and light to its citizens and to power weapons factories vital to its defenses. The overnight onslaught pounded residences and wounded at least 10 people. And this morning, a Russian missile attack damaged a civilian enterprise and injured at least 8 people in Ukraine's Kyiv, according to a local governor. The attacks came days after the U.S. suspended military aid and intelligence to the country to pressure it into accepting a peace deal being pushed by the Trump administration. Also today, the U.S. government said it halted Ukrainian access to unclassified satellite images that had been used to help it fight back against Russia.
And I think the idea is to get down a framework for a peace agreement and an initial ceasefire as well.
Yesterday, Trump's special envoy said he was in discussions with Ukraine for a peace agreement framework to end the 3-year war, and a meeting was planned next week with the Ukrainians in Saudi Arabia.
Saudi views itself as a middling to great power, and obviously a great power in energy and financial terms, and its motivations are indeed principally commercial. It's going to be a difficult one. Ultimately, the Ukrainians aren't going to let themselves get pushed around by a mediator that they don't entirely trust. But then again, the Russians don't trust any mediators either, for what it's worth.
Today, the Kremlin said that a draft peace deal that was discussed between Russia and Ukraine in Istanbul in 2022 could be the starting point for a settlement of the Ukraine crisis. NATO member Turkey hosted initial talks between the sides in the early weeks of the war.